This is Julie again, and I'm going to read her Linda's bio while she's getting on, so we don't waste time on the presentation.
I'm so sorry. I'm here if you would like for me to introduce myself.
Well, hi, Linda. Well, I have this really nice bio, but if you would like to do that, that would be great. I'm Julie. I'm the room host. I already read our little intro on what we're going to do. I'll help watch the chat if there's any questions for later. And then I just need a 1 minute at the end of the presentation. So sure, go ahead and let's get started. Oh, just by the way, I asked people to write in the chat what they are doing for self-care, and there's some really good ideas in there.
Ah, fantastic. Julie, thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for your patience with me. I had a little bit of a morning where I left my home without the power lead for my laptop, and so I had to race back home to get it. So here we are. Here we are. Let us actually start today by doing a little bit of self-care. I truly believe that as someone who is a trauma therapist who specializes with the body and the brain, that the state of our nervous system then informs how we view the world and how we view ourselves. So when my nervous system is starting to edge towards fight, flight, freeze, what happens is I then start to see the world through that frame. I feel like I'm being threatened. I feel like things are an attack. I feel like I need to be cautious or on edge. And I feel like, I'm not feeling like I'm so supported. Whereas I can do exercises to shift gears, to shift my nervous system back into a more regulated and co-regulated state, where I'm then resourced and resourceful. And I'm better able to access my capacity for creative problem solving with and through other people. Yeah. So let's start this morning in the spirit of that. So I'm just going to invite you, and it's all invitational, to lengthen through the spine. Yeah. And to bring the shoulders up around the ears, and then exhale. Inhale this turtleneck that we're so used to having, and exhale. Because what can happen during the day is the turtleneck begins to creep up as we get stressed out. And then we can over exaggerate that to let that go. Yeah. Another wonderful way to reset the nervous system is to make a sound with the exhale, any sound. Because an animal that's stressed out, an animal that's anxious, an animal that's in danger in nature makes no sound. Yeah. And so what happens for us is, as we get stressed out, particularly for those of us who have a trauma history, we experience the rise of anxiety, and then we lose our voice. Right? We lose the capacity to ask for what we need. We lose this capacity to reach out. And so we can help to reset the nervous system by making any sound with the exhale. Yeah. And so let's start slow, and we'll work our way up. And you're welcome to participate in accordance to what feels appropriate for your nervous system today. And this is stuff you can also do with your kiddos, yeah? Like your kiddos at home as well as your kiddos in the classroom. And kiddos actually know naturally these techniques with and through the body to reset their nervous systems, yeah? So if you like, you can breathe in and then exhale, whoosh. Inhale. Exhale, whoosh. Let's try a sigh with the exhale. So sigh of relief. One more. Notice how you feel now after a few sighs of relief. Another one that I like to do is the sound of voo. Yeah, it's soft and gentle. It's a breath into the belly and then exhale, voo. If you like, you can join in. And the voo also gives the syllable voo gives your mind something to focus on. Yeah, but you could just use any syllable that feels appropriate for you. And so let's do a few together. Breath into the belly. One more, breath into the belly. Sometimes the sigh of relief doesn't quite cut it, or these gentle, soothing sounds don't quite cut it. So we can try the moan of relief. This can be associated perhaps with the WTF, at the sky. So the moan of relief can be something up here, or it could be something down here. But you're welcome to experiment if you like. A natural breath, whatever feels appropriate for you. And notice if the moan of relief was regulating for you in your nervous system. Yeah. Sometimes we experience a lot more frustration or anxiety in the nervous system. And this can lead us towards that sort of, green light, orange light, red light. We're into that orange light zone where it's almost like a poke the bear scenario, where there could be something that happens next, and then all of a sudden I'm saying things or doing things that I might later otherwise regret. And so what I do is I shove the lid on things even harder, and I become a pressure cooker. And so if you notice that in yourself, what typically can happen is the eyes start to tense up, the jaws start to tense up. Perhaps there's this, pressure on the upper torso. Perhaps the hands start to make little fists and release. Perhaps the shoulders start to become a little bit more activated. And so I'm just going to invite you, if it's okay with you, to flare the nostrils with the inhale and clench the jaw. And then with the exhale, you can keep your mouth, your lips closed and make a sound, any sound. So inhale. Perhaps this time clench the fists as you inhale, flare the nostrils, clench the jaw. Natural breath. This can also be that thing that you do for those kids who have feelings that are too big for their own bodies. The next up level from this, I call this the angry chipmunk, or here in Alaska, the angry beaver. So it's your two front teeth are showing. So inhale, flare the nostrils, clench the jaw, perhaps clench the fist, and angry beaver, exhale. And then natural breath, whatever naturally arises on the exhale. And here's the thing, the stress cycle needs to be released through the body. And when we release the stress cycle through the body, what happens is the diaphragm contracts that little bit more. And then the natural breath with the inhale, there's more expansiveness available in the diaphragm. And then for some of us, the sounds may not be so comfortable for us to make with the exhale, in which case making the expression with the body and then releasing with the exhale also resets the diaphragm. And so I just invite you to participate in terms of what feels appropriate for you. knowing that, you know, for some of us, making sounds, reclaiming our voices can actually be hard, and it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So the up level from the angry beaver or the angry chipmunk is the angry blowfish or the angry chimpanzee. Yeah. So as you breathe in, flare the nostrils, clench the jaw, perhaps the shoulders come up and the fists come up. And then as you exhale, and then notice the breath that happens after that. Yeah. So if you like, we can do this together. Inhale, flare the nostrils, clench the jaw, bring the shoulders up, clench the fists. Exhale. Natural breath. And then the up level from that is the roaring. Yeah. Yeah. Is the roaring. So if you like, we can do a couple of roars together. I like to once again use the syllable VU as a way to just channel the mind and channel the energy. I also envision this as like the toothpaste tube, you know, where you're clenching the thighs and the buttocks and the low belly, and then you clench the upper torso, and the VU is like the exhale, right? It's the toothpaste that comes out of the top of the toothpaste tube. Yeah. And if the sound isn't appropriate for you, you can just visualize the toothpaste tube, and then the breath out, the releasing of the tension can be, you know, just the sound that comes out, like the toothpaste being squeezed out. And the VU comes out like VU, right, as a roar. Yeah. So if you like, we can do this together. Inhale, clench the lower body, clench the buttocks, squeeze the core. Inhale, squeeze that toothpaste tube, flare the nostrils, clench the jaw. Exhale. Natural breath. And just check in and notice how you feel now. Perhaps giving yourself this permission to inhabit the body and to inhabit the stress cycle and move it through your body is what allows the stress to be released. And in this way, we can then approach the conversation about work-life balance from a more embodied and perhaps more calm perspective than from this cognitive, I need to know the answers, someone give me the answers right now. Yeah? Because we can't, oh, my sound is blocking. I'm so sorry. So in this way, we're approaching the question from a different state in the nervous system. And when we can approach the question from a different, sound hearing is gone. I'm having a morning. Let me see here. If I think laterally, I'm going to get my, it's back. Okay. You can hear me. Okay. Thank you. I do have Bluetooth earbuds that I can go and use. Please let me know if this happens again and I'll get that set up. Yeah. Thank you for rolling with challenges. When we're in this more embodied state, we're able to be connected and we're able to extend that grace instead of the criticism or the judgment that can also be inflicted upon ourselves. Yeah. And so to be able to recognize what state of the nervous system am I in? And am I in this more, you know, stressed out, constricted state? Or am I able to access this capacity for embodiment and social connection and engagement? Yeah. Let's do a couple of laughter yoga exercises, and then I will then move on with the more practical didactic aspect of this presentation. Yeah. So if you like, you can plug your nostrils And then say in a very, very deep voice, boop de boop. Yeah. Boop de boop. Boop de boop, boop de boop, boop de boop, boop, boop de boop, boop de boop, boop de boop. Silliness and mischievousness arises when we are in the parasympathetic response of the nervous system, this rest and relax, social and connected, the horrible F word, fun, the horrible four-letter word, play. When I am being afflicted by serositis, I'm aware that I am beginning to redline this part of the nervous system where my prefrontal cortex is becoming unavailable to me. I'm experiencing inflammation of the serous gland. And one of the best ways to get that back online is through laughter. Okay, the next one is to whisper to yourself very, very quietly. Beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, 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 bop, 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 beep, bop, beep, beep, bop, beep, beep, bop, beep, bop. And then notice what arises next. The next one is to plug your nose and say in the angriest voice possible the word bubbles, like this. Bubbles, 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 bubbles. In laughter yoga, which is actually something that I am trained in, we often talk about how laughter is the best way to reset the nervous system. And there's one laughter yoga exercise that I would love to share with you. And it goes like this. Very good, very good. Yeah! Your turn. Very good, very good. Yeah! Very good, very good. Yeah! The reason that I love that particular laughter yoga exercise is that this yeah is the antithesis to anxiety, stress, depression, sadness. Because if we look at the architecture of those emotions, because feelings are simply physical sensations, what happens is the body does this, or it does this, or it does this. Yeah. To be able to do this. Yeah. Shifts the body. And the best way to get out of the head is to get back into the body. Yeah. So very good, very good. Yeah. Okay. Nice big deep breaths. So I invite you to put into the chat box, where are you in this moment? Yeah. If you look at yourself in terms of the cell phone battery or the gas tank, is the tank nearly empty? Is the tank half full? Is the tank full? And there's no right or wrong answer. There's no comparing or comparison. Yeah. It's the opportunity to recognize, yeah, where are you today in this moment? Yeah. Yeah, part of what I do in trauma therapy is this skill called noticing and naming. Yeah. To be able to acknowledge what I'm feeling, where I'm at today. It's a skill we can also teach our kiddos. And there are various infographics out there on Etsy. You know, it can be the volcano exploding, or it can be the thermometer. Yeah, where are you today? So that we can get a gauge for where our energy levels are at. Because life isn't about managing your time. Life is about managing your energy. And when we can notice and name, where is my energy at, then I can be able to um, to pick the activities or choose the people or engage in the practices that help meet me where I'm at. Yeah. And similar to like a cell phone battery, I carry around devices to recharge my cell phone battery before it gets to 25%. Yeah, I have ways to plug in through the wall, through a USB device, through my laptop, and and in my car as well, I can recharge my cell phone. And so when we talk about longevity in the human services profession, we're actually talking about having self-care and coping skills be systematized and automatized in terms of how you live your life. Yeah. It's not something we do when we feel like it. It's something that we do as part of how we live our lives. I've taught in addiction recovery for close to 10 years. And in addiction recovery, we talk about recovery being a lifestyle. It's about a shift in who you hang out with and the practices that you engage in, because you're more responsive to noticing where your stress levels are at. Because when we start to redline the stress levels, we're more likely to engage in the coping skills and behaviors that are adaptive based on what we know from our past, that are no longer helpful or useful for us. Yeah. And when we look at COVID as a long-term stressor on the nervous system, we have to start thinking along the same lines as those who are living in addiction recovery. It becomes a change in lifestyle. I owe it to my patients and my clients to take care of myself first. And that may require a shift in the systems within which we operate at the individual school level and at the school district level. Yeah. Yeah. So when I look at coping skills versus self-care, I want to offer you a distinction that I think may be useful for you as you start to plan your self-care strategies and your coping skills strategies. Coping skills versus self-care. Coping skills feel good in the short term, but they can be a form of avoidance in the long term. Yeah, coping skills may be things such as getting a manicure, a pedicure, a massage, getting takeout, having a glass of wine after work. Yeah, going and hitting the gym. Like it feels good in the short term, like the stuff I did with you just then, right? The breathing and the moaning and groaning. It's a great coping skill. In the short term, it helps me to shift from, beginning to redline my stress levels back into something that's more effective and productive for me. However, in the long term, it can actually be a form of avoidance. Yeah. I'll go into more detail about that in a second. Yeah. Whereas true self-care feels shitty in the short term. However, we reap the benefits for it in the long term. Yeah. So it might feel shitty in the short term to learn skills around healthy boundaries, learning how to say no, learning how to ask what you need, learning to say, I've got too much on my plate right now. Learning to say, I can offer you 5 minutes right now, or you can make an appointment for me for next week. Yeah. Learning to say, I'm sorry, I have a high special needs kid that I'm raising. And that means I don't have as much bandwidth as what I would like to make available for you. And that's typically okay during usual times. However, during COVID, it's just too much for me. Yeah. So those skills around noticing and naming and asking for what I need. It could also be, for some of us, exercise feels shitty in the short term because we haven't yet learned a habit pattern around that. And yet in the long term, we're reaping the benefits for it. The negative coping skills, right, of food, stuffing my face rather than facing my stuff. Alcohol, yeah, drugs, they can be coping skills in the short term, but in the long term, they may actually form a set of negative coping skills. Yeah. And so these are things to be aware of as our stress levels become chronic. And let's face it, they were chronic before the pandemic. Yeah. And the pandemic is actually exacerbating those, those stressors that exist within our own individual lives and systems, as well as within the school system, as well as within society and the healthcare system. Yeah. And so this is where I also want to acknowledge that when your stress levels are high, self-care is not possible. Yeah. And so when I do a person and environment biopsychosocial assessment of my clients, I assess where their stress levels are currently at. And I provide them with coping skills. Yeah. And I provide them with ways in which to recognize what are the negative coping skills that may be unhelpful in the long run, and to find more healthy coping skills to replace them with. Because when we're looking at long-term self-care, which may actually include trauma therapy or learning how to have boundaries around a spouse or a family member who's in active addiction, right? That can be really, really hard to do when your plate is already overflowing and full. Yeah. And so because I don't know what it is that your individual stresses are and what it is that you're currently facing, I want to also make it okay that you use coping skills. Yeah. And that when you have those periods of spaciousness in your life where self-care is possible, you can then begin to weave that into how you live, so that those self-care strategies create more bandwidth for you. And the more bandwidth we can create for ourselves, the more stress that or the more things that we can have on our plate without them actually stressing us. Yeah. Are there any questions around that? Does that distinction help you in terms of moving forward with strategies for yourself? Yeah, I also want to hold space for perhaps the discomfort that this may also bring up, and to let it also be okay that this is not a time for striving. Yeah, yeah. This is a time where we can practice some self-gentleness and self-patience and self-grace and self-kindness, so that we can extend that to others. While I am aware that life is about learning to manage our energy, as part of the work-life balance and productivity, we also want to have skills around managing our time. Yeah. And so the next series of slides will be about silent killers of time and productivity and self-care. And then I'm going to offer you some hacks around that. And these hacks may help you to create healthier boundaries for yourself, as well as manage your time better. So we have to recognize that the limbic brain, the emotional brain, is, when it takes over, it runs on fear and overwhelm. So when we can notice and name that fear and overwhelm, we can use these skills to get the prefrontal cortex back online, so that we can then be the better parts of ourselves for ourselves and others. Yeah. So to notice and name when we're in fear and overwhelm requires noticing and naming when we're in fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. Yeah. Being able to notice and name when I'm in the loop of perfectionism, procrastination, and paralysis. Being able to notice and name if perhaps one of my fear and overwhelm strategies is to control and then overcompensate for a situation, collapse afterwards because I've overexerted myself. And that collapse afterwards may also include numbing out behaviors such as food or drugs, or, your flavor of bliss. Yeah. Please don't fall for open information loops. What can happen for some of us is that fright find response. Yeah, so my nervous system starts to escalate, and then I'm trying to find the answer. Yeah. And what we're experiencing with the pandemic is open information loops. There is no answer. We don't know when we'll be back to in-person. We don't know when we're going to quickly pivot and go to online classes. We don't know when this will end. We don't know if the vaccines are effective. We don't know who to trust or not trust. And that can create for some of us this escalation of stress response. And so we go into fright find. I've got to find all the answers. Or for some of us, and excuse my language, we go into fright effort. Yeah. Where this is all too hard and this will be over soon and someone will tell me what to do. Yeah. And that's that collapse response. Yeah. And so to recognize that for some of us with a trauma history, we go into fright and then fight, or fright and flight, let's get out of here, or let's numb out. For some of us, we stay in this frozen terror. I'm stuck between my needs and my fears. And some of us, we go into fright, collapse, and overwhelm. Yeah. And open information loops can exacerbate the fright response, which is the precursor to these trauma responses. So our habits, our automatic habit patterns that we have automated, right? So to make your self-care and your coping strategies automated in terms of the systems that you have incorporated into your life. Yeah. Like I wake up and my yoga clothes are next to the bed. So the first thing I do is I put them on, right? And wearing the clothes, even if I'm just stretching in bed, helps me to take care of my body first thing in the morning. And then if my energy levels are higher, I bust out a yoga routine. But that's an automatic habit pattern that I have systematized into my life around self-care. Yeah. You may create structures around that, perhaps scheduling it into your planner. And then have people who support you in taking care of yourself. Power Poses by Amy Cuddy. It's a 20-minute TED talk that you can look up. But these power poses, right? That very good, yeah. We hold that for a few minutes, or the Wonder Woman pose. Yeah, the hands on the hips, and it's okay to take up space in this world. We do those power poses for a few minutes and it gets us out of the fright, fight, flight, freeze, collapse body postures. Yeah. Embodied noise making, which we did at the start of this class today. The next silent killer of time, productivity, and self-care is failing to plan your priorities. If you don't make your priorities around self-care and coping strategies your priority, other people's priorities are going to take over. Yeah. And so here is my call to arms, this rally cry to please plan your priorities around self-care first. With clarity and with intentionality, with a commitment and accountability, where you put it into your schedule. Yeah. And you schedule that stuff that's your priority in regards to self-care and coping strategies first. They take the priority in your scheduling, and then the other things fit in around that schedule. Yeah. And it's underpinned by your values. And this can be excruciatingly hard when you operate from a collectivist culture paradigm, which many of us do. I'm Vietnamese. I come from a collectivist culture. I know that we have many Alaska Native individuals here in this call, as well as living in this state where I am hardwired through my culture to take care of other people first. And that's how I then experience safety in my nervous system, is because other people are well. Yeah. And so to recognize that that's part of my values, and this then requires me to dig deep into my value system and recognize that as I progress in my field, there is the necessity for me to take care of myself first, because that means that I'm more able to take care of others. Yeah. Yes. Waiting until I feel like it will not get your self-care activities and coping skill activities happening. Yeah. Sometimes, oftentimes, perhaps all the time, we just got to get started. Yeah. And we got to keep it going and let go of the myth of multitasking. We just got to get started with that exercise program, or the getting rid of the amount of sugar that I have in my house, or having boundaries around my time. My last 2 hours of the day are mine. Yeah. I'm not going to wait until I feel like it. I'm going to have boundaries around that stuff now. Start with the low hanging fruit. Yeah. Rather than trying to pick the fruit that's at the top of the tree. Yeah. And in this way, we can start to create habit patterns around it. And then we preserve that for ourselves and we guard it. Yeah. We guard that time. I invite you to let go of the myth of multitasking. We know that from studies that you make your way through your to-do list one thing at a time. Yeah. Oh, and the other thing around multitasking is it's okay to do things with your hands while you do things with your head. Yeah. So the knitting, the sewing, the beading while you're watching a webinar, that works great. But when you're watching a webinar and you're reading through your emails and you're doing more than just putting stuff in the trash, then what happens is that your brain can't switch between the two. The cognitive tasks that you're multitasking between, what happens is one of them gets let go of. Yeah. And so we just do one thing at a time. It's okay. Fake breaks and time leaks, I will talk about in more detail. I just invite you now to notice and name what you do with your fake breaks. And you can put that into the chat box if you like. Yeah. This is where you can do a time audit or an inventory. There are apps out there that let you know how much time that you spend on certain apps or on certain programs. I invite you to consider taking real breaks, so pit stops, like Formula One racing drivers, where they stop for 7.5 minutes and everyone comes out of everywhere and does the thing that needs doing so that that vehicle as well as the driver can get back and operate at peak performance. With your time audit and your inventory, right? Notice those fake breaks. Is it Facebook? Is it social media? Is it where you pace around the house, replying to text messages? Yeah. Is it where you're taking your dog for a walk or hanging out with your kids, but you're replying to messages on your phone while you're taking a walk or taking a break? And at the end of that break, you don't feel replenished. Yeah. And that's how you know that it's a fake break, is that I take a break, but I don't feel replenished at the end of that break. Yeah. And so this is where we notice it and name it. So then you can do something else instead that would actually be a real break, a pit stop for you. Yeah. Poor energy management is also a silent killer of time and productivity and self-care. Notice your energy levels throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, and throughout the year, and make the most of those high energy times. And also make the most of those times when you notice that you've got more energy in your body than others. Yeah. Oh, I am sorry. I don't know what I did there. Okay. With the high energy times of the day, month, or year. Yeah. During the day, I might notice I have times when I have more energy. So I take a break, but I clean out my composting toilet and I take it to the compost pile. I take out my compost bucket to the compost pile. Yeah, I live down a trail in the woods, so I might run some things up to my car. Yeah, or get things down from my car. And so that's when I have the energy, and I use my 5 minutes to hone that energy, get that excess energy out of the system. And then I can sit in front of the computer for another hour. Yeah. And then there are maybe times when I have low energy periods of the day. And that's when I do my email, because I don't need to be using my peak creativity time and have that be sucked up by email. Yeah. My low energy times are when I can, do my email. Yes. And multitasking, like doing housework when you've got the energy to do it, can be a way to get rid of that excess energy. Yeah. So that way you can make the most of your day in terms of productivity by noticing those energy levels and actually channeling it and honing it. So if you're noticing yourself making circles in your cabin, or in your house while you're returning messages, put the phone down and go out there and take a real walk. Yeah. And then come back. You can put the phone in airplane mode. You can also set the timer on your phone for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes. The way that you set your timer when you put something in the oven or when you can your salmon. Yeah. And in that way, you can then make the most of that energy and that break. And then come back to your messages and responding to emails. Yeah. With the first and most technique, start the day with your most important, highest priority activity. I start my day with a self-care activity where I'm doing something just for me. Yeah. And it's okay to do things just for you, even if it's only for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Yeah. To put aside that time. I love the books where the chapters are like 2 or 3 pages. That's my time where I'm reading about my history or my culture or my people, stories from my ancestry, right? That's what I'm doing right now. That's just for me, first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And then when my workday starts, the very first part of my workday is just for me in regards to the activities that require my peak performance and my creativity. Yeah. And so I invite you to set aside the first part of your day as well as the first part of your working day so that it's laser focused on your things. Yeah. Decide the night before and then make it a habit. Yeah. So, the night before I put my yoga clothes out and then I put my book out. And my book's actually already there because it's the last thing I do for the night. And when I make self-care the last thing I do for each day, then it's automatic that it becomes the first thing I do for each day. And then same for when I leave the office at the end of the day, is that I make my to-do list for tomorrow before I close my laptop for my work things for the day. And so in that way, I can just let it go. Right? I can just let it go. And then when I start the next day, my to-do list is actually already there for me to focus on, and I just do the first thing that's on the list. Task lists versus calendars. Your head is made for thinking, not for storing information. So get it out of your head and write it down on paper. Yeah. So this is where your to-do list is separate from your schedule. Do not use your schedule as a dumping ground for your to-do list. Have your to-do list be separate. Create a parking lot for your to-do list and then pull the 3 to 5 things that you're working on right now off of that to-do list. Yeah, the most important high impact activities. And then when they're done, you go back to your parking lot and then you get more things off that parking lot. As things come up during the day, I put them into my parking lot. I don't reshuffle my to-do list. Yeah. And then that way I am defending my time and my schedule. If something comes up that is actually important and urgent and it requires me to do it, I take something off of my to-do list for the day and put it back into the parking lot. I don't try and jam more stuff into my day. Yeah. And I've been self-employed for like nearly 20 years. I do remember what it was like back in the days when I was an employee and I had supervisors. I would actually manage up. I would say to them, these are the things I have on my list. If you want me to do this today, can you please help me to take something off of this list? Because I am unaware of the bigger picture of things that you are aware of. Please help me. Yeah. But I do it in a bit of a nicer voice than what I just said it then. Yeah. But that's this ability to recognize that we're all stressed out and we need each other to help us to prioritize what's actually important and what's actually urgent. If you don't know what Eisenhower's matrix is, please look it up. It will hold you in good stead. Yeah, to be able to differentiate between the activities on your to-do list so that you can figure out what your priorities are for each day. This last one, block out distraction-free time. You don't need to justify to anyone else what you're doing with that time. It is your distraction-free time to get things done. Yeah. Yeah. And I really mean distraction free. Like you can work offline. You can turn your email notifications off. You can put your cell phone in airplane mode. Yeah. Ah, I see what I've done. I've repeated a slide without realizing it. I invite you to have a dedicated workspace. I know for many of us, our kitchen is now our office. Yeah. In which case I invite you to get 2 filing boxes. And when it's time for me to start my workday, I take my kitchen stuff off that's in relation to my life. I take it off and I put it into the filing box. And then I pull out the filing box that's got my work stuff in it. And I put that on the kitchen table. And so my kitchen table is now a dedicated workspace. Yeah. And then when I take my lunch break or when it's time for the end of my workday, I take all of that office related, work related stuff off of the kitchen table. I put it back in a box and then I put the life stuff out and put it back onto the kitchen table. Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the amount of time available for its completion. I know that many of us are operating in this wonderfully blurred space where we're working from home and there's a lack of distinction and boundaries between where work stops and where life begins. And this is where there is the imperative to recognize that that work expands to fill the amount of time available for its completion, and therefore it's important for me to have some boundaries around that. Yeah, I do answer emails into the evening. However, there are certain emails I don't answer into the evening. Yeah, I put that on tomorrow's list. I read it now, but I attend to it tomorrow. Yeah, and that's okay. Yeah. It's up to you to decide what's helpful and workable for you. I also do things where I respond to emails, but it doesn't get sent until tomorrow morning. Yeah. So that others think that I have healthy boundaries and that they can send emails to me whenever they like, but they're not going to get a response until the workday begins. Set aggressive deadlines and have fun with it. This is one thing that I've really learned, and I know that many of us here are also perfectionists or may struggle with a harsh inner critic. I operate at 70% these days. Yeah. It's okay to be good enough. And I learned that when I set aggressive deadlines, I might do things to 50%, but it's done good enough for now. And then the next time, and then I can park it. Yeah. And then I might schedule another block in my schedule in 3 days' time. And then I can revisit where I have been at, because work is a creative process. Yeah. Work isn't necessarily about getting things done and being entirely goal oriented. So much of what we do is creative, it's process oriented. And this therefore invites us to engage in the creative process where we set aggressive deadlines, we have fun with it, we park the project, and we return to it. Set a timer. I'm going to work on this for 25 minutes. I'm going to work on this for an hour, and then I'm going to walk away from it. Amy, look up Eisenhower's matrix on Google and then hit Google Images. Yeah, it's a quadrant that helps you to organize your time and your activities. I invite you to utilize pit stops for high performance. I work in 25-minute blocks and I have a 5-minute real pit stop break. Yeah. I also work in 2-hour blocks and then I give myself a real 20-minute break. I invite you to figure out what works best for you. I invite you to set a timer and to be curious about what a quality pit stop would look like for you. Many of us who struggle with ADHD-like symptoms, OCD-like symptoms, perfectionism, where we can't put down the bone. Yeah, this is where it's imperative for us to entertain the idea of the possibility that a quality pit stop will actually increase your performance levels and your productivity levels and your creativity levels. Yeah. But what would a quality pit stop look like for you at work and outside of work. What would you do with yourself with a whole minute? That would reset your nervous system? What would you do with a whole 2 minutes or 3 minutes that would be nourishing for your body and for your soul? Yeah. What would a whole 20 minutes look like for you? And I invite you to invest in routine, system supports, and habits that support you in the dedication towards your family and your students by having real pit stops in your life. For a lot of us, even the conversation of, I need your help so that I can have real breaks, can be hard in and of itself. Yeah. Let's look at the time. Yeah. The Warren Buffett productivity secret, because I know that we all want to be more productive and more fulfilled in our work lives and in our personal lives, is the capacity to say no. Yeah. And I have found this technique to be super duper delicious for me in terms of my personal life, in terms of what nourishes my soul. List 20 things that you would love to do that nourish your soul. Yeah, these are my 20 things. Yeah. I'm just going to go through this exercise. I'm sorry we don't have time for this, but those of you that get inspired by this, I know that you will run with this. I'm also aware that some of us have a little bit more free time because of COVID. Yeah, and this may be the opportunity for that. List the 20 things that light up your soul. Yeah. Narrow it down to 5 things. I did this exercise back in January of this year. Yeah. These were the 5 things that I said, if I get to do this on a personal and professional basis, I know that it will make a 95% difference to my life. Yeah. But what about the other 15 things? What about them? Right? Because this is what happens. They bump around in the back of my head. They create those open information loops. You know, they pop up and I'm like, ooh, right? Because they actually light up my soul too. This is what Warren Buffett says. This is your not to do list. This is your not to do list at any cost, because these things are what will derail you from doing these 5 things. When I focus on just those 5 and I said no to these other 15 things, within 6 weeks, I had not just done these things, I had systematized them as a part of my life. Yeah. And the things that I was doing with my day that used to bug me or bother me or wear me down, they didn't bug me so much because I had incorporated into my life things that nourish my soul. I was starting and ending every day with learning about the history of Vietnamese boat people. I bought a stack of books. I was reading one chapter at the end of the day and at the start of each day. I paid money to invest in myself and was attending online community singing events. I was geeking out with my brain by investing in teachers and in books and in classes where I got to explore more grief modalities and teachings. I landed a part-time trauma therapist job and I was able to continue to study with Bessel van der Kolk. So things that light my soul up. And so this is part of that strengths-based approach where we can't necessarily get rid of our stresses, but when we infuse our lives with the things that add joy, then the other things, they get, I don't know, they get put into a perspective. Yeah. There is free stuff out there. Yeah. I invite you to be creative about the ways in which you can meet yourself where you're at financially, and connect to resources that are available. For a long time, I would explore grief modality courses and teachings that were available free. You know, where you get that free snippet, but then you have to pay $200 to get the real deal. It's okay. I did like 15 years of like the free snippets and looking up stuff on YouTube. Right, there are YouTube videos out there for community singing. Yeah, there is YouTube stuff out there for the grief modalities and learning about the history of Vietnamese bod people. Yeah. So it's that yes and, yeah, yes and, rather than yes but. Yes and is growth mindset. Yeah. Yes but is that stuck mindset. Yeah. And it's okay to experience your stuckness and to meet that energy with self-kindness and self-compassion, and to be curious and creative about the ways in which we can move forward with ourselves. Yeah. Hydration. Our bodies and brains are made of water. And we're not talking about dehydration in terms of, you know, dehydrated person going through the desert. A little bit of dehydration results in impact in terms of cognitive function, memory, focus, yeah, your ability to perform in the world. And so I recommend, and this is like, you know, the losing the name of the people, the Mayo Clinic recommendation is that half your body weight in pounds, whatever your body weight is in pounds, drink half of that in water and drink 16 ounces within 30 minutes of waking. So if you weigh 200 pounds, drink 100 ounces of water a day. Yeah. This helps you to maintain that cognitive function. Carry water around with you, drink it. Create a culture of drinking water. Do your best to get a good night's sleep. Yeah, because a good night's sleep gets that prefrontal cortex back online. And what we know from the research is that individuals who don't get enough sleep start to experience those signs of anxiety. And you then want to isolate. You don't want to be as socially engaged. Then your social supports start to diminish. You become more cranky. You're less pleasant to be around, including it's less pleasant for you to be around yourself. And a good night's sleep can change that. Yeah. Do your best to get 20 hours of natural sunlight a day. The happy lights these days start as low as $30. Yeah. And so that's a way for us to take care of ourselves up here so that our cycles and rhythms of melatonin production can be enhanced so that we can get better sleep. Move your body. Move your body during the day. Get outside when there is the sunshine, you know, in the darkness and depths of the winter. Drink lots of water, reduce the fluid intake in the evening, limit your caffeine. It takes 5 to 7 hours for 50% of the caffeine to be metabolized. So caffeine stays in your system for a long time. Yeah. And same with sugar. Do your best to reduce the sugar levels. Yeah. Reduce exposure to light source, that's blue or white light, at least 2 hours before bedtime. And you may wish to invest in blue light blocking glasses. I do my computer thing within a few hours of bedtime, but I wear blue light blocking glasses because we know from the research that that blue and white light disrupts your body's natural circadian rhythms. And then stress levels, keep them low in the evenings. Yeah. This is staying away from the news, staying away from drama, staying away from individuals that may peak the drama levels and the stress levels in your body, so that you can get better sleep at night, so that you can be better in service of your family and your students by taking care of yourself first. I set a I set a sleep alarm. Yeah, just like I set a wake up alarm, I set a sleep alarm. And just like you have the snooze button for the wake up alarm, I have a get ready to go to bed alarm that happens 2 hours before I go to bed. And then I have another alarm that goes off an hour before I go to bed. And then I have the, okay, it is really time to go to bed now alarm. I also have a dog. Dogs are amazing because my dog goes to bed at the same time every night. And so she's also part of my sleep alarm system. Yeah. Yes. I won't do the creating a sleep routine. I think I just talked about it. Ah, yes, I've done enough for today. Yeah. I've done enough for today. There'll always be more to do tomorrow. And I can be at peace with that. When I die, there will still be more things left to do. Yeah. And so every time I go to bed at night, it's like a little mini death, a little mini let go of my life, let go of my day. There will always be more to do tomorrow. And my self-worth is not based on how much I get done. Yeah. And we have to notice and name that we live in a culture of capitalism and patriarchy that says you have to earn your rest, and your self-worth is based on your productivity, and your value financially as a human being is based upon your productivity. And to be able to notice and name that and deconstruct that. It's okay to take a nap because you need a nap. It's okay to rest because it's okay that your body needs rest. Yeah. You don't have to earn your rest. You don't have to earn your play or your self-care activities. You don't have to have your self-worth be based on how much you got done for that day. Yeah. The fact that you turn up into your world is more than enough. This is the muscle group that tends to tighten up when we're stressed out. And in the middle here is the pelvic floor muscles and the peeing and pooping area. Yeah. So what happens here is these muscles tighten up when we get activated for anxiety, stress, and danger. And what happens is I go to bed at night, these muscles actually finally relax. And just as I'm about to fall asleep, dang it, I need to go up and pee. Yeah. Because the muscles around the bladder connect to these muscles here. And when these muscles finally relax, then the bladder area relaxes. I'm about to fall asleep, need to get up and pee. Yeah. I know I'm not alone in this. Yeah. And so I invite you before bedtime to put legs on a chair or legs over a pillow or legs up a wall. And this then helps to relax this area here. And it takes about 15 to 20 minutes. And then once that area relaxes, particularly if you breathe into the belly, then you can get up, go pee, and then go to bed. Yeah. And then during the day, serious voice here, do not push when you pee. Yeah. Muscles that are rigid do not have flexibility. So what happens then is your bladder gets more rigid and it's unable to carry as much urine. So then you find yourself getting up to pee more and more often. Do not push when you pee. Let yourself relax. Yeah, breathe into the belly and tinkle, 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 tinkle. Yeah. So that throughout the day, we can carry a more embodied sense of rest and relaxation in our bodies. Self-care is non-negotiable. I want you in the chat box to list your non-negotiable self-care. When life gets hectic, what is the non-negotiable self-care you let go of first? Because this is your early warning sign that you are starting to move towards compassion fatigue and worker burnout. I want you to consider the idea of the possibility of up-leveling your non-negotiable self-care when life gets frantic or when life gets busy. I have the ability these days to notice my schedule and to notice those periods when my life is like, ah! And I up-level my non-negotiable self-care during those periods of time. It is the only way that I am able to make it through those periods and serve the people that I want to serve without wear and tear on my nervous system. Because you know who eats my shit sandwich, excuse my language? It's the people in my real life. Yeah. Because if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm overexerting myself at work, then my husband is the one who ends up eating the wear and tear of me overriding my capacity. Yeah. And that's not fair and it's not right. We are only as good as our non-negotiable self-care. Yeah. Yes. And to notice and name what that is for you. And I invite you to share your non-negotiable self-care with the people in your life, because they are the ones who are going to know when you are becoming cranky pants. Yeah. They're the ones who are going to notice first when your body language changes, when you're doing heavy sighs a lot more than usual, or when you're grinding your teeth at night in your sleep and you're unaware of it. Yeah. The people in your life are going to be the canary in the coal mine for you in terms of when your system is experiencing stress. But they're also going to be the ones who are going to lovingly and gently say to you, well, my husband says it to me, wow, honey, you got your cranky pants on. And he doesn't like that. And then I look at him and I go, angry beaver, right? and then I go and take care of myself. Yeah. Yeah. There may be permission giving involved in this. There may be asking for help involved in this. There may be outsourcing involved in this. And outsourcing can be like once in a blue moon, I will pay someone to do my laundry. Yeah. I will get takeout now once a week. Yeah. Every now and then, I will get a housekeeper to come over. Yeah. I also let myself use paper plates, every once in a while as well. Like, it's okay. It may be boundaries. When I have a big week coming up, I actually let people know ahead of time, for these 2 weeks, I am not available to you in the ways that I normally am. Yeah. Once these 2 weeks are over, check in with me see if I'm still alive. Yeah. And I can be available to you in these ways again. Yeah. So it's like a for now, not forever. And at the same time, this may be the skills in and of itself may be something that you weave into your lifestyle. Yeah. You can also practice these skills during non-hectic periods of your life. Mm-hmm. So that when those hectic periods do happen, it's like, yes, I already know how to ask for help. I already know how to ask for permission. And now I'm just amping up that level. Yeah. Yeah. Ah, what nourishes your soul? What do you do that's just for you? Even if it's for a minute or two each day. And to let that in. Whether it's turning your face towards the sun and feeling the warmth, or pretending that there's warmth when you feel the light of the sun. It's just for you. Outside of your caregiving role. I know that for many of us, work is a very regulating and resourcing activity. And yet, I invite you to have things that you do for yourself that are just for you. Yeah? And maybe perhaps you can connect to other people who also love doing those things, and you can be doing just for you with others. Mm-hmm. I invite you to choose a new inner voice. I invite in gratitude. Not in terms of toxic positivity, but in terms of appreciation. Appreciation for yourself as well as for others. Mm-hmm. And lastly, you are loved and you matter and you are enough just as you are. Please nod and say yes, Linda. Yeah? Yeah. Repeat after me. I am loved. I matter. I am enough. Just as I am. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hi, Linda. This is Julie. I'm the co-host again. And
Hi,
I,
Julie.
I just want to get this in before, in case the session just ends,
Mhm.
which it might. But thank you so much. The comments in the comments field have been great. Anna just put the Survey Monkey for the evaluation in there. And anyway, thank you for being here today. Our workshop of work-life balance, I think we all enjoyed this. I know I did. I got a lot of aha moments from it. And we really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. Again, fill out the evaluations. You also will have a chance to win some door prizes. And we didn't really have time for questions, but perhaps you might have an email, or we can get in touch with you some way if we need more information or want to talk with you some in a different manner.
Yes. I put my email address in the chat box. Yeah. Please
Well,
be in.
thank you. Thank you. So many aha moments. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I'm sorry I went overtime. It was a case of, you know what, we allocated a half hour for Q&A. Let's just, yeah, and I was seeing the comments and I was like, let's just keep going.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. It was wonderful to just keep going. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to stay on and answer any questions you may have. Yeah. I extend to you unconditional positive human regard. This is the gift that we offer to each other. Yeah. And I look forward to being in touch with you all. Please know that you are all each amazing individuals in our community. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.